Welcome to Someday is Here, the place where we get real about life, relationships, mental health, and what it means to keep finding your way back to yourself. I'm your host, Michelle Kramer, and I am so glad that you're here. Today's episode is a vulnerable one. I'm going to talk about a season in my marriage that I haven't really talked about publicly before. A season where I was so lost, I didn't know how to stay. If you've ever been in a relationship and wondered how you got so far from yourself, this one is for you. During a very chaotic season of our life, we had an almost 7-year-old at home and a 2-year-old, and I had just given birth to our youngest. I was exhausted because I was also trying to nurse. It wasn't working. And because I had a feeling this would be my last, I desperately wanted to do it. So, working with a lactation consultant for months, I was nursing and then pumping and then nursing and then pumping and taking tinctures and having a 2-year-old constantly needing me and the 7-year-old who was busy at activities that we had to get them everywhere. And Sean was in a season of finishing up the final part of his master's program for his degree. So he was also very, very busy. He was there, but he wasn't, if you know what I mean. And that season of life, I also was struggling with postpartum depression, but I didn't really have a name for it at that time. I just knew I didn't feel like myself. I knew that it was really hard to motivate, to do anything more than the absolute necessary things I had to do. Feed the kids, make sure they were taken care of, giving them baths, watching over them, making sure that they stayed safe. Beyond that, I had zero energy for anything else. I cried a lot, and I just didn't want to be a burden, so I didn't spend a lot of time talking about it. And I remember Sean ended up having to go to a conference for his college, and it was in California. And so I was really excited for him to go. California was always his dream place. And, realistically, I knew that probably wasn't in the cards for us for a long time. So for him to be able to go at school, I knew it was an amazing opportunity. But I had a 1-month-old at home. And I was depressed and stressed and touched out and completely overwhelmed. And when he left, the moment and the thing that I recall that broke me was on Facebook. I saw a picture that one of his friends from school had posted of all of them hanging out by the pool on a break between their classes and seminars. And I remember just staring at it and then bawling my eyes out. Because I was so lost in motherhood, so lost in depression, and so incredibly envious. And it was right around that time that I decided that, you know what, I was going to leave. There was a lot of other things going on. We were in our mid-20s, had 3 kids, had lived a life that had never been simple. And I think the depression led a lot of the way, and it blinded me to a lot of the good things that were also existent in our marriage and in Sean being an incredible dad. But I really couldn't see any of that in that time. And so I left. I packed up the kids. I moved a couple miles away. And I thought that it would make me feel better. I thought that it would solve things. But what I found was that really wasn't the case. Although I think the thing that kept me going then was just the idea that I finally did something instead of just sitting and doing nothing. And it might not make sense now logically, but back then it made all the sense to me. It was not pretty. It was not pretty. I remember crying myself to sleep most nights because I missed my partner. I missed my husband. I remember feeling exhausted most of the time. But I also remember that when he would come and take the kids for a night, I also felt a little bit of relief because it was 24 hours where I just got to be me. And I didn't have someone needing me. I didn't have someone touching me. I didn't have to take care of someone else. And I wonder if maybe that's why I stayed gone as long as I did. It wasn't very long. It was like 2 or 3 months. But it felt really long. Was just that it forced a break for me. I also went and got help during that time. I started seeing a therapist, and I started to better understand and be able to articulate to other people what was going on in my own body and in my mind and in my nervous system. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and got the help. It is so hard and it is so vulnerable to be able to admit that something's wrong with us. And I remember it took a lot of courage to make that phone call, to go sit in that appointment, and to go tell someone how bad I really felt about myself and about my life. Because if there's one thing I know is guilt is a driving factor for me in a lot of my life, and it is something I have been working on for a long time. But back then I felt incredibly guilty for leaving. I felt incredibly guilty for taking my kids from their dad. I felt like I had let everybody down, and even myself. I felt guilty that I wasn't more thankful for the 3 beautiful children I had, a partner that, although not perfect, did show up every day. I felt like I should have known how lucky I was. And I felt so guilty for not feeling lucky in that season. Luckily, my husband can be very stubborn and persistent. And while I was getting help and working with the counselors, he was still showing up for the kids all the time. Like, although I left, it was never contentious. So he was always welcome. He can come for dinner. He can come hang out with the kids. And he pretty much did almost every day. And then he'd take them, overnight for one night here or another night there. But he kept showing up over and over and over. And he kept letting me know that he was there. He kept letting me know that he wanted us back together. He kept letting me know that he loved me and that he would be there for me and he would help me get through this chapter of our lives. He also took ownership for things that maybe he wasn't doing that he could do, that would provide a little rest or relief or help for me. And we had a lot of conversations around how to better support each other. Because although he was very much the hardest working person I knew, he was truly able to put himself first at that point of our life. He was able to go back to school, or to go to school and to continue school and to chase the career he wanted, because I had everything managed at home. But I was drowning in the managing. I was drowning in the caretaking and the scheduling and the planning and the mental load. And I just needed to be seen. I needed to be heard. And I just needed a little help every once in a while. But especially during that time. So after a few months, he ended up moving in with us. And we stayed at that place for a little while, and then ended up moving again. But I think leaving taught me how much I wanted to stay. I think realizing what life looked like without him made me realize how thankful I was. I think that season taught me that living without him was not what I wanted. It also taught me that I could do it on my own if I needed to, but I absolutely did not want to. It's important when we go through hard times in our lives that we have people that are willing to step up and to show up for us and to accept us and love us for exactly where we are in that moment. That encourage us to get help. That encourage us to find ways to find our way back to ourselves. If you're in that season of life and you're struggling for whatever reason, please know that someone is out there that loves you and wants to help you through. Don't be intimidated or scared to reach out to a therapist. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. Wherever you are today, whatever season you're in, I hope this reminds you that you don't have to have it all figured out. Maybe you're just unfinished, and unfinished is not the same as done. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other, and I will see you in the next episode.